Hi, welcome to the start of a new series for our Wednesday reflections. I'm calling it Story Time for Grown-Ups. There's an amazing spiritual treasure right in front of us, and I think most of us tend to skip right over it. Why is that? Why would we miss something that could be so valuable, so precious? Well, I think as Christians, we tend to focus on the life and teachings of Jesus. Makes sense. We want to know what it was that he said and what he did, hear about his miracles. That kind of defines us. He's the source of our hope and our faith. And Jesus is written about in the New Testament. So we don't spend a whole lot of time focused on the Old Testament. But the whole Bible is about God and God's people. And some of the richest stories in the Bible come right up front in the Bible. They're beautiful. They're amazing. But too often these stories are sent down the hallway to Sunday school classrooms and children's ministries and not revisited as adults to glean that sacred wisdom that they have to share. These stories are too good to pass up, and so I thought we might spend a little time with them. Now, there are a lot of different ways that we can study Scripture. Often we take a very academic approach, employing various disciplines like archaeology and linguistic studies, or biblical sociology, or translational variation, scriptural parallels, historical commentaries, and the like. All of these different ways that we can dissect and analyze the scriptures. But I think it can be helpful to remember that the vast majority of scripture was originally shared as oral tradition, which is to say that people just sat around and told the stories. They weren't written in a book. Most people didn't even read or write. So they didn't worry about books. They just heard the stories and retold them for generations. People didn't pore over a translational word choice in a specific passage like we might do. In fact, there were no verse numbers assigned for a lot of pages, or even pages to look at for a lot of years. They simply told and retold the stories, cherishing them as guideposts for their lives. Things that they could look to help them find their way, and pondering the mystery of God's presence therein. How is God speaking through these ancient stories? I think we can do something of a combination of these two approaches. For the coming weeks, I'd like to read stories from one of my favorite Bibles. It's called the Jesus Storybook. Here it is here. The Jesus Storybook. In fact, it's one that I use with the confirmation students. We read all the way through the entire Bible. Now, this is not a Bible, traditional Bible in the sense that you may be thinking with word-for-word translation, but it's a studied and faithful paraphrase in the spirit of storytelling. That's the point. It's intended to be heard as storybook. And from there, I think I can add a little bit of background and information to the stories. And then maybe some questions to think about, some questions for reflection, to consider how these stories may speak to us and what we might have to learn from them. So look forward to this. I'm excited to start this new series. So thanks for joining. Let's get started.